Hello and welcome back to War Thunder, and I hope you didn't mind the cinematic intro. It was a test run for another video that I have planned in a few weeks, I guess. And I just want to do a bit of a test running how it ends up on YouTube itself. Now, the focus of today's video is the Kia 96, the Japanese rank 3 battle rating 4.0 premium heavy fighter plane. It is equipped with one single 37mm Ho 203 cannon with 25 rounds in total and two 20mm Ho 5 cannons with 400 rounds in total. And while you have no ammunition selection for the 37, it is of course equipped with high explosive fragmentation shells. You have the normal decent selection for shells for the 20mm guns. Now, a battle rating of 4.0 at rank 3 is quite favorable, to be honest. And in all honesty, this plane, I have flown it like 11 times in realistic right now, and most of the time here on Saipan. The problem is, I think this plane doesn't have the right battle rating for its armament, because you rarely encounter any big bombers. You rarely encounter anything that the British have around that battle rating, and I think I have never encountered a B-17 in this thing. Which is a shame, because the 37 is not so good against fighters, because it's quite difficult to hit them, but against a Wellington or a Halifax, it's quite nice. Now the armament is alright. I mean, 400 rounds for the 20mm is decent enough. And I always wondered when the Japanese heavy fighter line was introduced with the Kia 45s and the Kia 102. I always wondered why Japan thinks it's worth it to build an entire plane to put two engines on it with a gunner and so on, not on this plane, but then, for example, just equip it with one 37mm and one 20mm with a limited amount of ammunition at the same time. I know there was high altitude performance problems when Japan was attacked at late war stages by B-17s, or rather B-29s. And so I guess they sacrificed a little bit of armament for saving weight to get a bit better altitude performance. I don't know. Then we have the Kia 102 with a massive 70 or 57mm Ho 401 cannon with 16 rounds, and that thing does the job. Also, it does have two 20mm cannons with as well 400 rounds, like the Kia 96. And I always was curious about the Kia 96, how it will perform and if it would be any special amongst those Japanese heavy fighters. To be honest, back when I played and spaded the Japanese heavy fighters, it was back in arcade. And it was when they came out, I just went through them. They are low battle rating, not a lot of experience and silver lines required. So I went through them rather fast. And what they all had in common was a brutal maneuverability. They flew like zeros, and yes, that was a massive difference in arcade. You could outturn any fighter as long as it wasn't anything Japanese. Back in the days, I didn't play realistic. The one thing that they also had in common is that they burned down after a single hit. My biggest enemies for the Kia 45s were German Heinkel 111s and British Wellingtons. Their 7.7s or 7.92s, they were the most dangerous thing ever. And yes, that happens when you spark. Must have been a 20mm armor piercing hit. So I butchered that approach. And I show you this battle because it's more kind of a review than, something epic or exceptional. This is a rather let's say, average battle that you're about to see. And the reason for that is this plane has magnificent handling characteristics under certain circumstances and ridiculous performance characteristics under other circumstances. To make it clear, this thing is a very good horizontal turn fighter, or not very good, but good to decent turn fighter at lower altitudes, below, let's say, 4,000 meters. Above that, the handling becomes, yeah, very, very heavy. It's very heavy on the elevator compared to what it can do at lower altitude. For a twin engine fighter, it behaves very good, and you know, you might get the feeling that you're actually flying something with just one engine. I tried to snipe here the Mustang, but my 400 meters convergence doesn't really interfere too well with the armament of this plane. I guess a longer targeting distance would be better for this plane. Now, the really ridiculous thing happens, or I witnessed when I first played it. It was against the Russians. I don't remember the map name, but it doesn't matter. Because I was at 5,000 meters and the plane didn't stop climbing. And it's indeed the very high altitudes that suddenly the climb rate becomes absurdly high. It's not absurdly high by itself, but all other planes fly back. But not this. It keeps its high altitude performance. And you can see those engines have rather big engine housings, so to say. And overall the plane looks very good, by the way. But that's not the point. The thing is, it just keeps its high altitude performance, and it also loses not so much energy in, normal maneuvers. If you pull maximum elevator and use the rudder excessively, of course you will lose speed like any other plane. But I think even then, not at that kind of magnitude. And it just baffles me that this plane has such ridiculously good performances. The American captured A6M2 received a deadly hit. Not quite sure with what I hit it, but down it went into the drink. I think I snapped the control cables there. And as you could see, this is one of the performance things that you can expect from this plane. Out from my dive, I went practically into a chase of this Spitfire. Now, he went out from my dive, I came from above in that situation, so of course he's turning away. And now we can see the real struggle that this plane has. And that's the overheating issue. And it happened when I first played this plane. It happens right now in this patch. I don't know if this plane has ever received any kind of flight model change. The thing is this plane absolutely rockets to the sky. It can perform, or it can keep up, or even outclimb many allied planes. I often find myself at the same altitude or even slightly above single-engine fighter planes, such as Spitfires, even something like the XP-50, even the higher Spitfires that you can maximum meet. They really can't outclimb me. And then, under the right circumstances, when I have a bit of a distance, I can keep the distance. The problem is, you have an internal counter, I guess, for the overheating. And that is a shame, because you need the web to make the most out of your performance. This plane lives and dies by the speed, practically. While it is good at turning, if somebody then begins to think and puts it into vertical maneuvers, you really can't keep up anymore that well. That's the 37 when it works. Now this Wellington was not a big challenge, was it? The overheating is such a drastic factor that I went into manual engine controls. And indeed, you can control both the oil and also the engine temperature at the same time, which is good. The problem is, there is something weird that I have never encountered at any other plane, and that is that the, how to say it, you have perfect controls with the second compressor stage or supercharger stage up to 6,000 meters, and suddenly you lose all your power and the engines begin to break down. Not physically, they don't take physical damage, but you lose every kind of performance. And that is weird. And when you put it back to auto engine control, you suddenly rocket up again to 9-10,000 meters, which is weird. Now, would I recommend this plane? Well, you know, I don't quite remember the price, but it was not that expensive, as far as I remember. But this is not a plane that I would recommend. You're better off to put a Talisman on a Zero or any other fighter plane that the Japanese have. The A7M1 is a superior vehicle in almost every way. You know, and Talismans are normally cheaper. Also, the Kia 61s might even be better, or the Kia 43.3 Otsu is so much better. Same battle rating, same rank, go for that. It trolls even at higher tiers. Why do I want to show you this plane? Well, I think I have never seen anybody doing a review or even talking about it in this proper way with those issues. So if you think about purchasing it, this might be it. You have decent firepower, you still spark a little bit, and yeah, that's it. Let's have a quick look at the post-battle results. For 3 kills, I got 81,000 silver lines and nearly 6,000 modification research points. I currently researched nothing, so yeah, and I just was in the middle of the team with 2,065 score points. That's basically the plane. I mean, it's a rare sight, it's a beautiful plane, it has really strong engines, but the overheating issues are something that I really don't like. I don't want to fight my plane as hard after like 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes as I have to fight the enemy. Also on, for example, Saipan, you have to really take care that you don't fall for the first sight or for the first enemy that is that shows itself. While this plane, under certain circumstances, can hold itself, you have really big difficulties against Spitfires in the long run. Now, overall, this plane is really fast. It's nice to fly, but there seems to be something odd about it that I can't point my finger on it. Now, if you want to master the Japanese 37mm and you want a decent income, and if you don't mind spending a few bucks, this plane is something that you might look for. Overall, for grinding purposes, I guess there are much, much cheaper and also better options. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Give this video a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. Let me know in the comment section if you have this plane and you have similar or different experiences and what you think about this plane overall. And see you in the skies of War Thunder.